thinking about Roy Jones Sr., he used to say that kids don't know the difference between good attention and bad attention. And it was his job to teach them the difference, to teach them to like the good attention and not to like the bad attention. So he could be really harsh, when you did things that weren't acceptable. All right. So the in Navy SEAL training, when I first got to the SEAL teams, I'm thinking, I heard all about this great Navy SEAL leadership, and I'm thinking, what, these guys are assholes. Excuse my French, but it gets my point across. But I learned that they were really good at laying out the desired expectations. You knew exactly, in no uncertain terms, what was acceptable and what wasn't, and what the consequences were. Okay. Then I'm listening to Jocko Willnick's podcast of the day, talking about dealing with millennials, and he's saying, that everybody's like, millennials will want everything to be about them, and they have a hard time motivating them. And he's like, well, you just got to learn how to play their game, and if it's all about them, I make it all about them, which I think is brilliant, because Navy SEALs aren't made in SEAL training. If you ain't got what it takes before you get there, you're not going to get through Hell Week, all right? You got to already have that, because the instructors aren't doing anything to coach you or encourage you or teach you anything. They're just trying to figure out the ones that are going to make it despite them, okay? So that he has that awareness that you got to reach people where they're at is awesome. There's a book. There's actually two books. It's the same book, two different titles. It's Ben Gay III is the pen name for the author for The Closers, and then there's another book, same book, The Art of Closing Any Deal, and it's the same book. And they talk about leadership in that book, and it says the majority, if you got a bunch of people just milling around doing nothing, and somebody comes around with enough enthusiasm and says, "Come on, let's go!" the majority are going to follow unto a point where they determine if that's the direction they want to go or not. And if you got somebody who doesn't move initially, you've got another leader. You got to go back to that person and go, okay, where is it that you want to go? And if you can show them how the direction that you're going is going to get them where they want to go, they will lead from the front. Okay. And so there's, you just, because somebody isn't moving when you are pushing them or, yelling with enough enthusiasm, right? You got to figure out where people are and where they want to go. And sometimes you got to they haven't thought about it, and you got to get them to tell you, right? And they won't do what they're supposed to do sometimes, even though it makes sense, right? Because they've got a stumbling block in the way they got to deal with, okay? And then they'll deal with that, and then when they deal with that, then if you haven't blown them out or cut them off, then you can bring them back in. Okay, so you gotta maintain that connection and that relationship with them. So these two videos I'm putting together, and to kind of help, it's Leadership 101.